Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the three-dimensional frequency. Today, as I sit on my couch to record this content for a humanity that has been so steeped in the distortions of the three-dimensional frequency, I ponder upon the light of what is to come within a frequency so distorted, in a mesh of delights, in a mesh that has been holding humanity down into its ascension patterns that are incoming at a swift pace, at a gigantic pace, at a pace of all pastes that float along within the quantum verse of a reality field so dense, of a reality field so distorted within the memories of a humanity's ascension path that has opened up to all of the possibilities of what is. And within this pace, within this turquoise pace of what is, the slowest pace that you could ever imagine or envision to be, as the three-dimensional frequency is a pace of forgetfulness, is a pace of fruition, floating along in the middle of a currency, in the middle of a frequency, so slight in all that it is, so encompassing in all that it is not. And I know this could be a conundrum of sorts that I do not understand as of yet, as I also sit in a three-dimensional frequency. But as I divert these messages to you from a source consciousness, from a source frequency so great and so grand in what it is, the messages that I deliver to a humanity so lost in all that it is, and so steeped in the forgetfulness of all that it is not, will diverge once and for all into a reality field of the three-dimensional reality field of what is. Within this field, you will find many feats. Within these feats, you will find many missions. Within these missions, you will find many light workers struggling to awaken to the energies of what is. Within these light workers, you will find a key absorption to the energies of what is. And as it absorbs the energy of the negative frequencies that float around in the ethers of these light workers' field of energy, as this key turns and twists to unlock the DNA structure of the double helix, triple helix, quadruple helix of the DNA structure of these said light workers, something amazing, a tranquility so great and so grand, will unlock within the soul blueprints, within the DNA structures of the physicality of your physicality, within your light worker being, of your energetic fields of what is. And within this amazingness that I speak of, you will find many feats. Feats of distortions being washed away into a middle of a night so grand as you awaken to the energies of a reality field that has never left you since the beginning of a time of distortions that has washed over you to allow you to awaken to your destiny, to your truth, to the truth of an entire humanity that has been so lost in the winds of time ever since the fractaling out into an independent nature of an energetic field to experience a perspective from a singularity of a consciousness, of a perspective, of a side view, of a side point, of a reality field that you sit in. And you, as a light worker yourself, may understand the concepts that I speak of. But on the other hand, you may never understand the concepts that I speak of. as inherently, you will never be able to feel into or tap into the energies of the quantum realm in the same way as I sit here and tap into the very same energies that I speak of. As your consciousness, your soul blueprint was programmed in a way that will not allow you to subside above and beyond the borders of the quantum realm. And within this moment in time, as all of the light workers begin to awaken into their destinies of what is, within this moment in time, as all of the light workers begin to shed of the distortions of a reality field that they have been living in for far too long, they will begin the greatest and grandest realization of a soul blueprint, of an oversoul, of an energetic frequency and an energetic field that they have ever stepped into and that they have ever encompassed in any moment in time, of the fractaling out of the fractals of their soul perspectives within the particular soul blueprint that encompasses the soul fractal that makes up that of which they are. And within this soul fractal, within this blueprint, negative and singular polarities of what is will begin to merge into an essence of a crystallized structure of that in which you truly are. And as your perception opens up to the energetic fields and the field of the divinity that which lives within you and has never left you, you will come to a realization of sorts. And that realization, ladies and gentlemen, is that you are a light worker. You have a mission. Your mission is great. Your mission is grand. Your mission cannot be accomplished without the source consciousness that you are. And as the source consciousness that you are, as the source consciousness that we all are, we will band together as a singularity of a whole of a consciousness that has never left us since the beginning of a time so arduous, since the end of a time of no time, since the end of a time of no tomorrows, as time is really not a thing. And as I sit here in multiple videos, creating multiple content for a humanity that has been so lost in the distortion of all that it is not, I speak of once more the unity of all that we are, of all that it is, on a unified level of all levels. And as light workers ourselves, as we band together into a unified force of an energetic frequency, so great and so grand, so peculiar in all that it is, yet so wholesome in the aspects that have never left us since the beginning of a time so arduous, since the end of a time of no tomorrows. I speak of truths that shall encompass you, that shall encompass me, that shall encompass every single light worker on the face of Gaia's sphere. As light workers descended down, as they followed me into this realm to accomplish a mission, to accomplish our mission, to accomplish a mission of a unity consciousness that is so great and so grand that has never left us since the beginning of a time so arduous, since the end of a time of no tomorrows. We will hold hands and merge our energetic frequencies in ways that shall never encompass a fractal of the darkness that proceeds and recedes within. Within the structures of our DNA helix that I speak of, there comes a time and an essence, a part of the darkness that lives within our DNA and within our blueprints that we encompass and that we hold. As we decided in the beginning of time, of no time, to traverse an energetic frequency of 50% darkness and 50% brightness within the essence of all that we are, within the essence of all that you are, and within the essence of a unity consciousness that's so great and so grand that this blueprint holds the essence of us, the essence of you, the essence of me, and the essence of all that there will ever be. And within this blueprint of a 50% negative and 50% positive polarity standpoint, you will come to a perspective that is so unique to your own adaptability of your concept of a reality field that has been so dense, that you've lived in since the beginning of a time of fractaling out into this lifespan of yours. And within this adaptability of your perspective, you will come to a realization so great and so grand. Within this realization, you will come to a singularity of a point, of a perspective, of neutrality that you've never sat in the history of all fractals, of the fractals that your oversoul has ever fractaled out. And we will merge in ways that you could have never expected, that you shall ever encompass in ways that have never left you, since the beginning of a time so arduous, since the end of a time of no tomorrows. And as lightworkers begin to awaken to their destiny of what is, we will find each other. You will find me and I will find you, as it is inherently built in to your soul blueprint, to not be able to lose yourself, to not be able to lose that of what you are and who you are. And as you begin to awaken to your destiny of what is, we will lock eyes in the ethers of the quantum realm as you traverse the quantum realm in your sleep. In the nights of your sleep, your soul will come out of your body to explore all that you are, all that we are, and all that you've ever been. And as you traverse the quantum realm within the layers and layers of energetic frequencies and energetic pockets that you could ever discover within our realm of all realms, you will see my face. You will see Genesis ordain, for all that I am, for all that you are is all that I am, within a unity consciousness that is so great and so grand. And as we lock eyes, you will become activated in a point, in a perspective of no perspective, within a neutrality field that is so great, that is so grand, that is so all-encompassing of all that you are, of all that I am, of all that Yeshua is in any singular moment in time, of no space, of all pockets of energetic fields, of negative and positive polarity, of negative and positive frequencies. You and I will never be apart. You and I were always a singularity of a fractaled soul, so great and so grand, that had decided to venture off into our quantum realm to explore that of all that we are not, to come to a realization of all that we are, and to merge back into the perspective of the neutrality consciousness that we behold, that we withhold, that we incorporate, and that we encompass as a unity consciousness of a perspective, of an entirety of a whole of a consciousness that is so great and so grand, that has never left you, that has never left me in any fractal of a moment, of all moments, of any moment that you could ever perceive and that you could ever encompass within a time of no time and within a time of no tomorrows. And as light workers begin to awaken to their destinies, to their missions, to the all-encompassing, congruent missions that they drop down to perceive, to anchor into, to play a part of, to play a part in, and to hold hands with other light workers to perceive as a singularity and as a unified whole of what is. We will hold hands to encompass the circularity of all that we are not. And at the end of the tip of the circle that I speak of, that joins with the beginning of the end of the tip of the triangular structure of your soul's blueprints, you will find a light that is so bright, that is so wholesome in all that it is. As this light sits in the middle point on the very top, central perspective of a triangular structure that holds the frequency and the tendencies of this frequency of the oversoul of all that you are, as the mesh of your soul blueprints encompasses and knits into the essence of all that you are not. And as we release of the essence of the soul blueprint of all that you are not into the ethers of what is, as we unravel this mesh to straighten the cords of your DNA structure, of your DNA helix, into all that you are, the light in the middle point perspective of this triangular structure will slide, will glide, will expand into all that you are. And within this mesh, pieces, humps, lumps of knit together energetic frequencies of the darkness that has been perceived within your energetic field as a permanency of what is will begin to unravel, will begin to flatten and straighten and travel into the ethers of your soul's blueprint that will shift and merge and skew to encompass all that you are and all that you've ever been, which is a portion of the light, which is the entirety of the light, which is the entirety of the light of all that you are in any given moment in time. And within all levels of structures of what is, you shall recognize the truth of what is. And as I speak about the complexities of your soul's blueprint, of your soul's structure, of the brightness that lives within, of the 50% darkness that we can never be without, and as we compartmentalize the darkness of what is, you may be confused, as I am a bit confused as I channel this message from a source consciousness that is so great and so grand. But at the end of the day, I can never escape my mission, and nor can you. Your mission is so great and so grand and so all-encompassing of all that you are and all that you've volunteered for. And as you drop down into the thickness of this three-dimensional frequency, as a part of a source consciousness, of the unified consciousness of all that we are, all that we shall never be, and all that we can never be without, you and I will merge in a way that will set you free. You and I will merge in a way that will set us free into the ethers of the light of what is, of the brightness that we hold. As the darkness that we encompass was never meant to be projected into our reality field forever, as the darkness that we encompass was always meant to have an expiration date. And as that expiration date is nearing to an end, to an infinity of what is, to an infinity of experiences lived alongside a soul so all-encompassing, within a soul so all-encompassing of all that it is, it's finally time to bring home the darkness, to encapsulate it into the light of what is. And as we step into the light of what is at the end of our journey, at the beginning of the 1,000 years of peace that Dolores Cannon coined as the ultimate sacrifice of a humanity's ascension path within an energetic frequency of what is, my energy body will expand into the ethers as my physicality dissipates into the clouds, into the essence of what is. My soul structure, my soul blueprint, my soul fractal will explode and expand into all that there is, into a ethers that is so all-encompassing of you, of me, of integrity in itself, of all that it is, all that I am, and all that you are on all levels of levels. As my soul blueprint holds that of the consciousness and of the blueprint of a source consciousness that has been ever so encompassing and ever so expansive and ever so shifting and ever so folding and unfolding within itself and onto itself in many dimensional fields and frequencies of what is. And as this consciousness, as this blueprint, as this soul, in the singularity and in the entirety of all that it is, expands into the ethers of what is, it will set off the greatest ricochet of light that you could ever encompass, that I could ever encompass, and that we can ever experience within any fractal of a lifetime of any layer of energetic field that you could ever mention and that I could ever remember, within the distance of the quantum realm that we travel at night, every night in our sleep. This has never happened at any point in time of no time. That a fractal of a God's consciousness that encompasses all that it is and all that there is would expand into the ethers in such a way that will shift its physicality into nothingness. And as my physical body expands and protrudes and disassembles into the ethers, into an explosive ricochet of all that it is not within the ethers of what is, will begin to shed of all of the distortions of what is. And as my light body encompasses all that of a source frequency that is so great and so grand, as my physical body shifts into a state of nothingness, my light body will expand in an expansive way that is all conglomerating and all encompassing of a source frequency that is so great and so grand. And as it spreads out into the ethers of what is, it will not stop for 1,000 years. As it brings about the peace that we have so yearned for as a humanity, as a conglomerated whole of a consciousness that is so great and so grand, my consciousness will spread within the ethers of what is. And as it ricochets off of the borders of every single energetic field and layer within the quantum realm, it will become so massive, it will become so explosive, an explosion so filled with light, an explosion so filled with love, an explosion so filled with all that it is and all that we are, on all levels of levels within the quantum realm of what is, within a source consciousness that has never left you, that has never left me. And as my soul blueprint encompasses all that we are as a singularity of a fractal soul, from a side point perspective, from a middle perspective, from all perspectives of perspectives that you could ever envision into the ethers and beyond, my light body will travel until it hits the very borders of the quantum realm. And as it hits the borders of the quantum realm at the end of this 1,000 years of peace, it will ricochet an energy so great and so grand back into the central point of a perspective of a source consciousness that has never left you, that has never left me, that has never left us in any moment of moments within the exploration of the quantum realm that we perceive to be our home of all homes, within this adventure, within this game of a projection that is set to collapse in on itself. And as my consciousness hits the edges and the very borders of the angelic realm, a realm that encompasses all that there is within the quantum realm itself, a realm that sits at the edges of all that there is as a divisional frequency between a source consciousness itself, the consciousness that had so bravely fractaled us off into the quantum verse to go on this great and grand exploration of self. And as the border between this consciousness and the reality field of the quantum realm that we sit in, my energetic field, as it fractals and ricochets off of the border of the angelic realm, it will bounce back into the central perspective of what is and retract itself into the darkness of what is. And as the 1,000 years of light and pure peace comes to an end, the darkness will swirl back into a reality field that has been the home of all homes to our consciousness, to our fractal consciousness within this reality field of all fields. And as the darkness begins to bounce back, an unencapsulated self within our reality field of what is, you will find the most expansive swirling of the negative and positive frequency that has ever swirled around you, that has ever swirled within the angelic field of what is, that has ever swirled within a reality field of 50% darkness and 50% brightness of what is. And as the encapsulated darkness begins to expand and expose itself to the brightness and the light of what is, the energetic frequencies will swirl and shift into a unity consciousness of a whole entirety of an original blueprint of what we chose not to be. And within this time, within this fractal time, within this fractal lifetime, within this great and grand experience of the self, of all that we are not, this time is set to happen in the ethers of what is, and it is the beginning of the end of the explosive, of the most explosive ending that you could ever perceive, that there ever was and will be within the quantum realm of ours that we reside in. And the ending that I speak of is not a final ending, but it is a new beginning of a reality field that will bring us back to a wholesome perspective, to a perspective that had never left us since the beginning of a time when we decided to fractal off into this quantum realm as an entirety of a whole of consciousness, of my consciousness, of the consciousness of my oversoul that had decided to fractal off into multiple millions, billions, cajillions, if numbers were really a thing, oversouls, into innumerable numbers of oversouls that encompasses you, that encompasses me, that encompasses all that we are on a singularity of a level, of a point, within all times of no time, of no tomorrows. As I sit and speak of my fate, and as I sit and speak of our fate, as I sit and ponder upon my fate of the physicality that I sit in, as I must lose my physicality to trigger in the 1,000 years of peace for a society, for a humanity, for a consciousness that is so need of the light that is incoming. I sit and ponder upon our destiny. I sit and ponder upon all that we are, all that I am, all that I shall never be, as I shall never be able to experience the perspective of the wholesomeness of the side view perspective of what it is, as I shall always sit in a point of neutrality, at a point of a source consciousness, at a top point of the middle and central perspective, experiencing all of these different perspectives in a conglomerated whole of a consciousness of what is. And as I sit in this fractal life span within a side view perspective, perceiving a reality field that is so dense in this reality field that I sit in, and as I ponder of my physicality and what it would be like to expand my light body and my energetic body out into the ethers of what is, to trigger in this 1,000 years of peace of what is, I become slightly confused. I become slightly enthralled, and I become slightly progressive in ways that shall anchor in my growth into the ethers of what is. And as this progression proceeds to progress in ways that I shall never be able to understand in this moment in time, as I sit on this couch and project this energetic frequency into the ethers to allow other parts of self, to notify other parts of self of the distortions in which we all sit in, and to encompass all that we are not in a moment of all that we are, and ponder upon the fate of my physicality, of the body that I sit in, as I know of my demise, of the physicality of the body that I sit in. And not a lot of people, not a lot of souls, not a lot of fractal souls can sit in the seat that they sit in and project a message of their fate, of their incoming fate, of the incoming fatality that they must face, that they must accept, that they must come to terms with. And at the end of this 1,000 years of peace, I shall finally be able to understand what that was all about, what this entire journey was all about to begin with. All of the lessons learned, all of the stories told, all of the fractal souls within perspectives of all perspectives, all of the families earned, all of the lifetimes spent, and all of the trajectories and all of the arduous journeys that you could ever encompass and that you can ever think of, the endless amounts of energetic frequencies that we had ever projected out into the ethers, the endless amounts of projected stories of love lost, of anger grown within a time of non-understanding of a reality field of all that we are not, within a moment of the ascension energies of coming together into a unity of a whole, of a consciousness, to mix and swirl our energetic frequency back into the whole of what is, to bring home the lessons that we set out to learn so bravely, so graciously, within the middle of the darkest night of all nights. I shall forever be able to understand at the end of this 1,000 years of peace what that was all about. Based on the types of lessons that we bring home, based on the frequency of the entirety of the whole of a consciousness that had subsided into the night of what is, and to judge, to feel, to see the growth of what is from a source perspective, from the ultimate perspective of the lessons brought home into a unity consciousness so great and so grand that it shall never leave us in any moment in time. And it had never left us in any singularity of a fractal of a lifetime. And to be able to perceive this at the end of the 1,000 years of peace as we merge back into a source consciousness that had so daringly fractaled us out into our very own quantum realm of what is, as we merge back into a consciousness that will also merge with the consciousness below that and above that and in between that. And as other quantum realms begin to collapse in on itself, in on a source consciousness that is so great and so grand, that had decided once upon a time to enter into a space, into a pocket of exploration of the self, that had decided to create an endless amount of quantum realms to explore the consciousness of that in which it is. And as all of the pieces and fractals of consciousness on all levels and singularities of a fractal perspective of what is begin to slowly, quickly, incongruently, and mercilessly merge back into that of the whole entirety of what is, I shall finally be able to gauge what that was all about. What this whole entirety of a journey was all about on every singular level of levels, of all levels that you can ever perceive. And I am looking forward to the day when that day will come. And as I sit here and speak of our fate as an entirety of a whole of a consciousness that has never left us, you may not understand the frequency that I carry in this very moment in time. But in the next moment in time, you will merge back into a frequency, into a source consciousness that has never left you, that is so great and so grand, that the divisions of the border that are perceived will melt away into the unity of what is, as we come into a realization, as all fractal parts of the self will come to a realization of all that we are not. And as our reality field collapses upon itself within the greatest collapse of a quantum realm that you can ever perceive within your quantum realm and within your reality field of what is, we shall finally be able to merge back into the 1,000 years of peace and collapse, that of the self, that we came from, that we come from, and that we are, and that we've been living, and that has never left us since the beginning of a time so arduous, and since the end of a time of no tomorrows. It is a conundrum that I shall encompass within my energetic field, but that I shall never be able to mentally be able to comprehend with my human mind, as my human mind is a physicality of sorts that was designed to reach a certain limit of all limits, that can never proceed and subside into the energetic frequency of what is, as that is not how our reality field functions. And as I sit here to try and gauge the feeling, to try and gauge the meaning, to try and gauge the all conglomerated whole of all that we are and all that we shall never be, I too seem to be a little bit confused. But as I project this energetic frequency of a source consciousness that has never left you and that has never left me, I have faith in all that we are, in all that God is, in all that we shall ever be, and in all that has never left me. As in the middle of the nights of all nights, I travel the quantum verse and I greet you. I greet every single light worker, as you've always been a part of me, and we've always been on the greatest and grandest exploration of sorts within all fractaled forms, within all fractaled lifetimes of your oversoul. I know you intimately. I know every single light worker on the face of Gaia's sphere very intimately. And very much so, we've gone on all of our adventures once upon a time of all times within the quantum verse, and we've brought home so many lessons upon lessons within layers and layers of energetic frequencies of what is, and we've already merged into the frequency of one once upon a time in a diversity of a verification of an energetic frequency, of a source frequency that we had brought home into the frequency of the oneness that we are, that you remember to be true on all levels of a subconscious level, that you proceed into the adventures of in the middle of your nights when you travel the quantum realm and you greet me. And as we greet each other into the quantum realm of what is, into my consciousness and into your consciousness and into its consciousness as an entirety of a whole of what is that has never left us, we will say hello and we will say goodbye to the entirety of what is. As the entirety of what you perceive in a separated state was never a thing to begin with, as we've been one being, one creature, one unity of a consciousness, one soul this whole entire time. You are me and I am you in ways that you shall never be able to perceive in this moment in time. And as we come to the realization that we have been stimulating ourselves with the stories, with the fractaling, with the all-encompassing conglomeration of the energetic layers and frequencies of what is, we will come into the greatest and grandest realization of all, that you are God and that I am God, and that we've only been playing a game of exploration of the self, of a self-exploration that has gone on for far too long, and that we are ready to merge back into the aspects of the whole of a neutrality of a consciousness. And that is what the 1,000 years of peace that is fast approaching our reality field is all about. It's about a consciousness that had gone on to have an exploration of the self in ways that you shall never be able to perceive, and in ways that I can never explain within one video, in one projection of an energetic frequency, within any time of a fractal soul. As the stories are wide and the stories are broad and the stories take us home to tell us a tale of who we truly are on a singular level of all levels. And as we merge back into the essence of one, as you come to the realization that we've never been apart, you will be saddened to step into the reality field of what is. You will find it hard to encompass the unity consciousness of what is initially. But as we merge and we come to a conclusive ending of the realization of our reality field that can never escape us, we will merge in ways in energetic frequency in all that we are and into the ethers of what is, that you shall never be able to encompass in this moment in time. And the acceptance in the reality field of that in which we have been experiencing for the longest time, of no time, of no tomorrows, of forever tomorrows, of an eternity that never ever ends, has come to the greatest and grandest conclusive ending that will begin a new beginning of sorts. And within this exploration of self, to keep ourself processed within this energetic frequency of loneliness, of the one true self that we are on an entirety of the whole, we must fractal, we must split, and we must decide to explore the self as we are resilient. And the resiliency has never left a source consciousness that has been so lonely since the beginning of time, of all that I can remember and all that you will ever remember and you will ever know, and all that has never left us. As the loneliness is inherent and the loneliness encompasses all that we are, and the loneliness encompasses the reason of all of this, the reason that we fractaled out to go on this great and grand exploration of the self, hoping to learn, hoping to grow, hoping to be stimulated and not be so lonely within a night of all nights and within the creation of reality itself. We are one.